Welcome to the Personal Trainer Hustle. Personal Trainer Hustle. If you didn't know, you do now.
All right. We're back. Personal Trainer Hustle. And today we're continuing with these Q&As that you guys have been sending in. So for anybody that's new to the podcast, that's part of what the podcast is. Now, if you're just starting off, it's not always Q&As, right? So it's not always me answering a question, but today that's what we're jumping into with today's episode. If you guys have been listening for a while, hey, you can go to personaltrainerhustle.com and send in your questions, and then we turn them into episodes like we are doing today. So if anybody wants to send in a question, remember, you can always go to personaltrainerhustle.com and do that. But today, we are answering a question sent in by Sean Roberts. So shout out, Sean. So Sean says, hello, I am a college student and will graduate with a bachelor's in exercise science. I was wondering what would be the next best steps for me to take to succeed as a personal trainer and eventually go into my own business. All right, Sean, I appreciate you answering the question. And you're brand new, so you're getting that degree. Congratulations on that. That is one of the best things that you could have done for your personal training career to start off, is to get that education and that knowledge to start off. Okay. But you're asking me for advice on, how to go about the next steps. And so I'm going to give you 7 things to consider, 7 things to do to start moving your career forward, especially you being new. Obviously, these are just going to be 7 points that I make, but there are a lot of people that you can reach out to. There are books that you can read. There are goals that only you know that you have. And so I always say that when I give somebody advice, because we all kind of carve our own path. But I hope that with the 7 things that I talk about today, I hope that they're going to resonate with you and also with the listeners of today's episode. I hope that everyone can consider these things, think about these things. I have been a personal trainer, or I was a personal trainer for over 10 years. And I've been through the steps, and that's where I'm coming from, right? I had a job at a gym. I got promoted to management. I started a business. I started my second business, which is Logic Fitness, the one that you guys most are aware of and know. And that's been my story. And so I've been from getting my certification to owning my own personal training studio with a staff of trainers that are there, practically full time. So I've been through the journey. And so the advice that I'm going to give you, just remember that it's coming from that place. It's coming from a place of experience more than anything else. Okay. So let's jump into answering the question, which is simply, what advice I have for you as you graduate from your bachelor in exercise science and you begin your career, and eventually you think about going into business for yourself. The first thing I'm going to say is that I like the way that you phrased the question, right? You talked about finishing your degree, starting your personal training career, and then eventually getting into business. And that's a great way to think about it from the beginning. I think one of the biggest risks that a lot of trainers are taking, and a lot of you guys listening, is a lot of people feel like they're going to move faster if they start their business first, right? We're all so desperate to get to business that we think that the fastest way to be in business, the fastest way to be self-employed, the fastest way to be successful is to start a business as fast as possible. And that can seem realistic and true on the surface. It seems obvious. But in my experience, what I have realized is that's actually the slowest way for a lot of people to succeed. And the reason for that is because business has a lot of moving parts. You have to be a great trainer, you have to be a great salesperson, you have to be a great marketer, you have to have time on your side in order to build a reputation. Usually it takes an investment. But more than anything, it takes a while to figure it out and to make it as successful as you need in order to have a reputation that then creates the income that you're going to need eventually. And so, because all of that takes a lot of time, most people have to give up on that goal or that dream, or they live constantly struggling because there's a lot of things that we haven't yet learned. And so, you're going to see, based on my advice and based on my experience, that sometimes it is best to start to just work somewhere and gain that experience in a safe setting. And now, when you make that jump, you have a better idea as to what you're doing and you increase the chances of success. So while the person that started off right away with a bang, 5 years later, they're still struggling and figuring it out, you 2 years, 3 years into your career can make big leaps because you are willing to learn from others what a lot of these so-called business people were not willing to learn for themselves, or sometimes just didn't have the opportunity. Now, that's not to say everybody's like that, because there are a lot of people that just start a business right away and they have the thing, right? They know how to talk to people, they can sell, they can market themselves, they can brand themselves, they have the patience, they have the funds, you know, they have the energy, the stamina, and they're able to pull it off. So there is, when it comes to the business side, there are many ways to get it done. All right. I'm just going to speak from my personal experience. Okay. So, point number one that I would suggest that you apply right away is to begin to apply your knowledge. Okay. So, apply the things that you have learned as soon as possible, with as many people as possible, with as many different goals as possible, from different cultures, from different backgrounds, different ages, right? Begin to train real people. I'm telling you this because I'm basing today's answers on mistakes that I have seen personal trainers make, some of them that I made myself. But you have to understand that in my position, being a manager, being an owner, right, operating a business, training other trainers over the years, I've seen a lot of these mistakes be made. That's why I have a list of things, 7 things today that we're going to talk about that are very important, because these are the big mistakes that I see trainers make. And one of the biggest mistakes, especially that I see from trainers that are starting where you're starting off, the biggest problem that I see is that we walk in thinking that we know more than we do because of the degree, right? So the degree says that you have a lot of knowledge, but unfortunately, if you don't apply the knowledge, then you are actually not going to learn the most valuable part, which is the experience part, right? You're not going to know for sure. Right now, when we graduate, when we get our degrees, when we get our certifications, I'm telling you, because this was me, we have a lot of theory, right? You have a lot of concepts, a lot of principles, a lot of techniques, a lot of ideas. A lot of information, but all of that information is not going to make sense until you start to apply it, and still until you start working as a personal trainer. One of the biggest reasons, and I'm going to talk about ego a couple of times on today's episode, but unfortunately, one of the biggest, most dangerous s- situations that people with a lot of knowledge and a lot of um, education find themselves in, right? And I'm telling you from this experience because I've dealt with many different trainers in my life. Usually, the danger that highly educated trainers fall into is that they think that that education makes up for the experience, right? And this is not a conscious thing that you're thinking about. This is a subconscious thing that happens in people's behavior, right? So I can't tell you how many times I have worked with trainers who have a lot of knowledge but don't have practical skills, or are intolerable, can't play with a team, they can't be team players, they don't want to gather new information. They think that the way to train a young person is the way to train an old person. They think that they're the smartest person in the room. And unfortunately, you may end up being the smartest person in the room with zero clients. And that's the danger sometimes with being a very educated coach. So the best piece of advice that I can give you is see your degree, right? Or for a certified trainer, look at your certification as simply the entry level information that you have, right? Everything that you've done up until now is simply to start. It doesn't mean that you're a coach yet. It doesn't mean that you deserve anything yet. It doesn't mean that you have accomplished anything yet in the real world, right? Up until now, we have a piece of paper that declares that you have gathered the information and you have memorized the information to the degree that you are someone who is well informed. The next step now is to begin to apply that information in order to see how those rules, those principles, that information, how it actually applies when you work with someone. So experience, right? Applying your certification, applying your knowledge, applying your degree is the most important thing. Because I'll tell you, I have had people who come and interview for me at my gym, and they have degrees sometimes they have multiple certifications, sometimes they claim that they've been trainers for 5 or 10 years. And when I put them through my interview process, when they make it to the second interview where they have to actually come in and train, the moment that I start giving them problems, right? Let's say they're trying to get me to squat and I can't squat properly. Most people, whether they're highly educated or not, most people at that point panic. When they ask me to squat and I can't squat, most coaches, again, like I said, whether they're highly knowledgeable or not, whether they're new or experienced, most trainers don't have the experience, don't have the actual knowledge to make the adjustments that need to be made. And so what most trainers do is they end up staring at me doing bad squats, knowing, because they have the knowledge, right? They have the education, so they know what I'm supposed to be doing. So they stare at me and they go, "Well, that's not how you're supposed to do it." And I say, "Okay, how am I supposed to do it?" Then they show me, but they can't get me to do it because they don't have the practical experience of working with individuals and correcting form and having regressions, right? And knowing when I can't go left, I go right. When I can't go forward, I go back, right? If I can't squat, I go to this movement. If this person can't hinge, I go to this movement. So right now is the time for you to become an expert coach, right? So use your education right now and your degree to open the doors to opportunities, because that's really all it's going to do. It's going to open the door for you to have opportunities to work at certain gyms. And certain people are going to look at something like that, and they're going to expect a lot from you, which is a great place to be. Even myself, right? I would look at that information that you have now, and I would have those high expectations of you. But that's just like I said, it's opening the door for opportunities, because once you start, you're new just like everyone else. And sometimes you're going to have to get re-educated on how things actually work at the gym. So what I'm saying is, respect the experience that other people have. Don't make the mistake of walking into your first opportunity that they give you, right? Whatever it may be, and thinking that you have enough information. The reality is that new trainers are new trainers, regardless of how they became trainers. You're still new, and there are going to be certain things that you're just going to have to learn through experience, right? Like I was saying in my example, trainers are staring at me doing something wrong and they don't have the tools to fix it, right? Because they're not willing to go through the process of learning how to actually do the job on the ground, right? It's like the difference between shooting a gun in a video game and shooting a gun in war. It's two completely different things, but some people are delusional enough to think that because they can shoot a gun in a game, that somehow it translates to actually being in a real life situation, right? But the pressure, the fear, the real life feedback that you're getting in the moment, right? The real life, consequences of the things that you do, those are completely different things that you have to experience. So, my first thing is look for your opportunity to start training people and start training as many people as possible in order to prove to yourself that your system works, right? Because no matter how much education you've gotten, you can't tell me how many people you have helped yet because you haven't helped anybody yet, most likely, right? So when you're new, you don't have the track record to say, oh, this program works, this exercise works, this routine works, this one doesn't work. Oh, you've been doing that routine. I tried it. There's a better way to do it. You don't have that lingo yet. So the first thing to do is to begin to get your experience and just be humble enough to get it, and something that I'll say is a great sign is that you were willing to send in and ask me a question about my advice and where I'm coming from. That already shows that you're willing to look at someone who has done it before and say, hey, what do you have to share about this situation? That's huge. Keeping that going is going to help you out a lot. Um, Point number two, okay? This is again a double-edged sword, but because my advice is to get a job, right? So my advice would be to not start a business right away unless you have some business experience or somebody in your life or your circle that can mentor you in business. The best thing you can do is just start getting experience in the safety net of a gym, right? So even though working at a gym has some limitations, it also has a lot of advantages that you can take advantage of. Um, by being there, right? So you can start with a little bit of a support system, right? There's already a roof over your head. There's already leads. There's already contracts in place. There's already prices. There's already tracking systems. There's already opportunity and the equipment and everything is laid out for you. So you don't have to worry about building the location and the rent and the lights and fixing things when they break and building a reputation of the gym and branding it and all of those things, right? That the gym does for you. So the best thing to do is to use somebody's location and begin to build yourself as a coach. And now you're going to be close to clients, close to mentors, close to managers, close to systems, right? You're going to get a lot of experience doing that. So my second piece of advice, tying it all together, would be to look for a job that has opportunities to grow. Okay. Now, here is why it's good for you to do this, even though it's going to be uncomfortable. Usually, the more opportunity that a job gives you, it usually means that they have high expectations, high requirements, and high competition, right? Usually, an easy job where things flow very easy for you, it usually means that there are no expectations, there are no goals, there is no competition. As comfortable as that may seem for a lot of people, right? It's an easy job without the competition, without those standards being set for you, without those goals being set for you every month at a gym, you're not going to grow to your full potential, right? So I'm going to tell you about my experience. When I started at training at a gym, I didn't realize what I was doing, right? I just took the opportunity that was given to me because I was looking for an opportunity at one of the higher end gyms. And unfortunately, at the time, I didn't have the experience, I didn't have the look, I didn't have the walk, the talk, none of it. And so I got a job at a regular gym in the neighborhood. Now it was a big, well-established gym called Valley Total Fitness. They're not around anymore. But it was something like a Crunch or an LA Fitness or a 24-hour fitness. And the great thing about that was that I could get as many clients as I had the energy and the experience to do. The problem is that was challenging me because I didn't know how to do any of those things. I thought I was just going to walk in and train. So, what I learned when I got my first job is not only was I not a good trainer to begin with, I also wasn't good at marketing myself. I also wasn't good at selling myself. I also wasn't good at a lot of different things that employers require, right? I wasn't as involved in being a team player. And so what happened was I was not rewarded until I started figuring that out. So that was uncomfortable. It made me want to quit and go and do other things. But facing that difficulty of the competition, of the goals, of the challenges that I was being presented with, it turned me into who I am now, right? Because it forced me to improve my training. It forced me to improve my social skills. It forced me to read books about topics that I would not have read otherwise because I looked for a job that asked a lot of me, but also had a lot of opportunities for me, right? So, what I would suggest is if you can find a job that has growth potential, but just know that the reason why I want that for you is not because I want you to get rich working there, because you can make money many different ways. I want you to be challenged by that. Now it's tough, but it's going to make you better because you're going to learn from better mentors in a place where they're asking you to be better all the time. Usually the reward matches the amount of work that somebody's going to require you to do. And you're going to see, this is another great thing about looking for an opportunity at a a reputable establishment, or at least an establishment that has goals or growth potential for you. um, the benefit of that is that it's going to challenge you to just be better all around. Those type of places, what I was going to say is those type of places also are going to teach you where you rank in the rankings of good versus bad trainers. Right? Again, that's another thing that most personal trainers run away from when they become trainers is the moment that a job gets hard, they think, well, if I just go do my own thing, it'll be easier. Or if I just go work at another gym, it'll be easier. Well, really think about what you're doing, right? What you're doing is you're being challenged and you're being confronted with the reality that you're not as good as you could be, right? You are looking at trainers who have 10, 15, 20 clients, right? Who are maybe personal training on their own. They have brands, right? They get results for their clients. They have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of good programming. They talk a different language, right? They hit their sales goals. They're functioning at a different level. And so when you put yourself in an establishment that has people like that, um, it is a great reality check to see where you rank, but it is also uncomfortable. But it's going to make you better to confront the reality and rise to the occasion than to do what most people do, which is run away from the challenge, run away from that establishment, run away from the opportunities, because it's requiring me to change a lot of things that I thought, or a lot of the behaviors that I have, right? One of the most uncomfortable things that happens to people is they have a degree or they have a certification and they think that they're ready. And when they're a part of a team where there are people that have 10, 15, 20 years of experience, now you realize, oh man, I am new after all. And instead of rising to the occasion, most people run away. And I'm not mad at it, because I was one of those people that try to run away. When I was working at Bally Total Fitness, my first gym job, I was not hitting my sales quotas, and I didn't like that. And I was being asked to talk to strangers, to get better at selling, to get better at walking the floor. And I was so uncomfortable with that what I did is I went and I applied at a gym where things were easier, right? The reputation of the training, the quality of the training, it was less than what they were asking here. The goals were less than what they were asking here, but there was also less pay. But I was willing to take in that moment less pay just to get rid of all of that pressure that I was feeling at Valley Total Fitness. So I'm telling you the truth. I am just grateful that that job did not give me an opportunity, right? They gave me an interview. It was like a 2-second interview. They looked me up and down. They said, no way. So I couldn't even get a job at the easier gym. And so those are the life defining moments that we all have, right? I try to run away. And when that didn't work out, instead of running away again, what I did is in that moment, I changed the trajectory of my life, because for the first time in my life, I decided I'm going to confront this head on and I'm going to be the best. And so what I did is after I got rejected from that job, I went back to my job because I had not quit my job yet. And I decided I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to start asking questions. I'm going to start talking to the other trainers. I'm going to start talking to my manager. I'm going to pick up some books and I'm going to fucking do this and I'm going to figure it out because I can't keep running away from my problems. And when I did that, I became a way better trainer. I made way better relationships with important people. I started hitting my sales goals. I started becoming a popular trainer. I started obviously getting more opportunities. I eventually was promoted to be a manager of a gym on my own, right? And so I got to, that was my first experience teaching other trainers, managing other trainers, hiring other trainers, firing other trainers, right? I ascended, which then gave me the it gave me the confidence to eventually start my own gym because I had moved up the ranks and I had figured out my problems instead of what most people do, which is do a business to run away from your problems, do a business so that I'm not held accountable, right? Anybody that wants to start their own business, you need to really be real with yourself. Are you starting it because you think it's going to be easier because you're not going to have a boss, you're not going to have an accountability partner, right? You're not going to be held liable for showing up to work, doing things on time, marketing yourself, getting better at sales, getting better at training, getting better at results, right? Because when you're your own boss, you can get away with stuff like that. So you think, except you're not getting away with it because the results of your business reflect who you are. And so if you weren't good at being a good employee at your job, you're probably not good at building up your own business. But I think those are going to be points that I'm getting to right in a little bit. So point number two is just look for an opportunity to work at a reputable establishment if you can. But if you can't, whether you can or you can't, this is point number three. Be grateful for the opportunity to work anywhere. Okay. Why do I say that? Because in fitness, competition is high. Okay. Competition is high. And there are times where you can get a job easily, and there are times when you can't. And, I see one of the biggest mistakes, again, that trainers make. I see it, I've seen it over the years, is trainers take for granted the opportunities that they have. I see it all the time, right? They think, well, if it doesn't work out here, I'll just start somewhere else. But, and that's going to be my next point, so we'll get to number four, but that's the wrong way to think about it. The best way to think about it is to be grateful for the opportunity that you have, to be grateful for the person that out of all the people that they interviewed, they took a chance with you, right? Because when you're the one applying, you don't get to see all the other people that are wanting that same opportunity, right? And I'm telling you that because I hire people. And so when I put out a post to hire people, even right now, if I said, "Hey, does anybody listening want to come and work for me?" Right? I have people that want to come and get a job. When you're the one looking for the job, when you're the one that gets the job, you don't see all of your competition because you're meeting one on one with me, right? Or when you go and get a job at a local gym, your interview is one on one with that person. So you don't get to see that there's a bunch of other people that also want this opportunity. And so when that manager, when that business owner takes a chance on you because they know they're taking a chance, don't get it twisted, you guys. They don't really trust that you're going to do it. They only think you have the potential to do it. And that's one of the huge, huge mistakes that trainers make. They think, well, you hired me because I'm the best. No, I hired you because you might have what it takes. And so when you go into it thinking, well, I got the job because I'm good, you lose the gratitude for what that person gave you, and you are already beginning your like demise in that company, right? So coming at it from a place of gratitude is going to open more doors, right? If you're grateful for the job, you're going to be on time. You're going to be receptive to the criticism. You're going to read the books that they suggest. You're going to make the changes to your training because you're grateful to have the opportunity to work. And most people in life are not grateful, and most trainers in their jobs are not grateful for the opportunity. And when I look around at people that are not doing well in their personal training jobs, I always see this same underlying tone, which is a lack of gratitude, right? Most trainers that are not doing well, all of you guys that work at a gym know this. You may be this person. I hope not. I hope you're not. But let's say you're not. I know you're around people that say, also they talk a bunch of shit on the gym that you work at. They talk about the equipment, they talk about the members, they talk about the pay, they talk about the manager, they talk about the other trainers, right? They talk about the parking, they talk about the bathroom, it smells, it's this and that. And the one thing that all failing trainers have in common is that they are ungrateful for the opportunity that they were given, right? Common trait. I see it all the time. It's almost a rule. A trainer that complains, that is ungrateful for the opportunity, usually is always a failing trainer. And so I'm just going to drop that there on you guys for you to reflect on where you sit. You should be grateful for the opportunity because you have the opportunity to get 10 clients. You have the opportunity to get 15, 20. You have the opportunity to get a raise. You have the opportunity to get better quality clients. You have the opportunity to learn from your manager how to sell, how to market yourself, how to train better. You have the opportunity to build a reputation for yourself right now, right? Create popularity with these people. You have the opportunity to learn all the things that you're going to need should you one day move to another gym or start your own personal training business. Right now is the opportunity while you work at this gym to build all of the tools and the experience and the knowledge that you're going to need to make that jump eventually, should you want to. And because you're so focused on taking it for granted, you're so focused on being negative about the opportunity because it hasn't been working out for you, but that's on you. When you become ungrateful for the opportunity, it is the beginning of the end. But the good news is you can change at any time. If you're an ungrateful trainer right now listening to me, tomorrow look around and say, hey, I still have an opportunity to do something here. And if I just change my mindset, I can start building a reputation. I can start building experience. I can start building connections. I can start building my network. I can start changing my training. I can start changing my physical appearance. I can start changing my sales protocol. I can start changing anything because I'm still employed. I still have an opportunity, right? So when you get this job, be grateful that you got it. Give it everything you've got, okay? Any trainer that gives their company everything they've got, the company usually has their back. I can talk from experience for me when I was working for a company, and I can also talk from experience with the way that I feel towards my trainers. I know that if they give me something, I'm going to be grateful back and I'm going to take care of them in return. But the ball is always, as the trainer, the ball's on your court, right? No manager, no business owner, no business or establishment is going to go out of their way to lift you up, but they will go out of their way to take care of you once you have shown that gratitude and that loyalty. Then they'll take care of you, right? But you don't get to have it early. And that is a misconception that a lot of people, just humans in general, have. They always think, when I get something, then I'll show them how good I can be. It doesn't work that way. First you show, then you get the recognition. First you prove it, then you get the raise, right? It doesn't work the other way around. No business, no manager, no business owner is going to take a risk and say, okay, I'll double your pay because I trust that you're going to do better work. No. First comes the better work, and then your manager looks at you and goes, you know what? It's been 6 months that you've been really doing everything perfectly. I think I need to talk to the higher ups about you, right? Because at that point, people don't want to lose you, right? So now you have the ball on your court, right? Because you either get a raise, you get opportunities, you get, whatever, you get a promotion, or you pick up and you start your own company if you have all the information. So you can't lose if you're grateful and you give that company everything you have, because the knowledge that you get, no one can take away from you. That's what people are missing in building their business. You have to realize the most important thing is who you are becoming, right? Whether they pay you more or not, whether the gym is clean or is dirty, whether the manager is good or is bad, take the opportunity to take care of you. So if you can build your client base here, you've learned something. No one can take that away from you. Even if the manager said, hey, give me those 10 clients, I'm changing them to another trainer. As much as that may hurt in the moment, You have the ability to do it. That is what you need. The ability to do stuff, the ability to train an old person. No one can take that away from you. Even if the gym burned down tomorrow and you had to go get another job, the abilities that you gathered, that's what matters. Okay. Number four, point number four is give it time. Okay. I can't tell you how many trainers don't get ahead because they're always starting over. They work at one gym for 6 months, then they go out on their own for 6 months, then they get a job at another gym for a year, then they get a job at a coffee shop for 6 months while they get another certification, then they go back and they look for another gym's job. And I can't tell you how many trainers I have met over the years that in the same 10 years that I've grown my career, they're still starting over because it is a habit. It is a very, very bad habit, having a habit of constantly starting over. Okay. And the reason why we have that habit is because all success comes through a trial. All success comes through grit, through stamina, through learning difficult lessons in our life. And so you're going to, as a trainer, have to learn certain difficult lessons. You're going to have to put in a lot of time with little pay. That's just what happens, right? Nobody has a success story that is boring. I remember telling Sean this when I first started the gym. He had just gotten hired. I said, nobody gets to tell a story without the trials and turbulations, right? That's why we love to hear a story of success, because we want to hear what someone overcame. Remember that overcoming is what success is. Success is not given, success is not free, success is not easy. That's why we value success. If everyone had it, because you could just find it on the curb like a piece of trash, who would value it? The reason we value somebody who is a professional athlete, who is a business owner, who is a professional singer, who is a celebrity, whatever, somebody even who is a great parent, right? Why do we celebrate and admire the greats? Because we know that there is a trial that they had to go through. There is an effort that they had to go through. There is a challenge that had to be overcome. Most trainers jump from gym to gym because in every trainer's life, there's going to be a challenge, if not multiple challenges, right? So when you're in the gym, walking the floor, trying to find somebody to talk about training with, that sucks. That hurts. And so what most trainers do is go, the moment I got to the point where I had to walk the floor, that's the moment I decided to walk away and look for another gym. But hey, guess what? The next gym is going to have requirements too. They're going to require that you're a better coach. Oh, well, now that they're challenging me, I'm going to go get a job over here where they give me the clients. Okay, well, when they give you the clients, they're going to require you to have training that's 10 times better than what. Well, I don't want to read the books, so I'm going to start my own training. Okay, well, now you have to market the fuck out of yourself. You have to know how to sell. You have to know how to train. You have to grind for zero pay because at least the gym was paying you. So now you got a big fat zero paycheck because you're starting your own business. Well, that's kind of hard. So I'm going to go and I'm going to start all over again. Or you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a certification because that's what I'm missing, right? If I just had another cert, then all of these things would have worked out. The reality is, wherever you decide to start, it's going to take a while to gain reputation, gain knowledge, gain experience, gain connections, right? All of these things take time. You're going to have to learn from your mistakes, right? So how can you learn if you haven't had enough time to learn your mistakes, right? We call this in business, it's a feedback loop, right? So I'll give you an easy example to understand a feedback loop. Let's say you put a plan together for somebody that wants to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, okay? And you write it out and you execute it. And at the end of 3 months, that person has lost 5 pounds. It took you, this is the feedback loop, right? It took you 3 months of your time to realize that your plan didn't work. And so now those 3 months are critical in learning what you did wrong. So now you need a new plan for 3 more months to make adjustments, to see what adjustments make what differences. Now you realize, okay, I got them down 20 pounds in 3 months. I'm closer to what the goal was. But look at how long that took to learn. It took 6 months of time to figure out that one lesson. And so while you're doing this, you're also learning lessons in sales, right? You might do something in your sales for an entire month, and at the end of the month, you have no clients. That's a whole month that you needed to learn how not to do something. And so you have to have this like mentality of I need to give it time because I need to learn all the different lessons that I'm going to learn here. And a lot of lessons take a while, right? I always use the analogy of doing something for a year, right? At a minimum. I always say do something for a year minimum. Why do I like a year? Because a year has seasons, right? So I always treat any job or project that I do as a year, right? When you get a job at a gym, you might start during springtime. And so your first 3 to 6 months, everything was great. And then there's a dip and you think, what's going on? Well, this is fall. This is winter, right? Imagine, being dropped on this planet during the summer, and then one day it gets cold and rainy, and that person that's never experienced it, they're going to be confused, but the rest of us would go, hey, that's just what happens this time of year every time it comes around. So your job as a personal trainer has similar ebbs and flows. There are times when things go up, there's times when things go down. There's times when you learn lessons, there's times when you're stagnant. There's times when you learn how to sell, there's times when you don't. There's times when you're motivated, there's times when you're not motivated. There's times when you make fucking huge mistakes, there's times when you're not making that many mistakes. So, but all of that takes time. If you're constantly starting over, you're only taking longer to learn the lesson that you have to learn anyway, right? Let's say a basketball analogy, right? And this number has been thrown around based on a book. I think it's called Outliers. I read it, but I'm not sure if it's in that book. Yeah. But you guys may have heard this, but they say, the average number you have to do something is 10,000 to become an expert or master, right? But let's use the 10,000 number. So if I told you it's going to take 10,000 shots, free throw shots, for you to be a master free throw shooter, well, you can take 10,000 shots in a row, or you can take one today, one next month, one shot the month after that, one shot the month. So how long is it going to take you to take your 10,000 shots to be an expert if you're taking one shot a month? Right? But that's what we do when we start over all the time. We're actually slowing down the process that should have just been knocked out in a year or two, just sticking to your job, sticking to being the best, sticking to progress, sticking to mistakes, right? Stick to what you're supposed to be doing. Continue to confront your challenges and overcome those challenges, because on the other side of overcoming that challenge is where the growth happens, right? And it just has to happen. That's the thing. A lot of you guys listening that started your own businesses, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard for all of us. It was hard for me. Okay? I think I may have told this story in the past, but I have a mouse, a mouse pad on my laptop, my other computer, and one day I just printed it with the definition of stamina, because I realized that the key for my success was going to be able to stay in the game longer than everybody else. Why? Because it's hard. And so I just reminded myself every day when I would sit down and do work, I would say, as long as you work one more day, eventually you'll be the last man standing. And so far, it's worked, right? From a lot of my trainer friends and counterparts, right? And people that I've met, I'm still standing because it's stamina, baby. I keep showing up every day, learning new lessons all the time, confronting difficult challenges, challenges that I don't even talk about. Some of them that I'm living still now, right? As I challenge myself to grow, it's difficult, right? I'll be honest with you guys, right? The last big change that I made in my personal training career was to have a full-time staff, to where I'm not coming in and doing the training sessions myself. But that was such a different, it's a new place, right? To run the business a little bit like at a distance, right? Like not being hands-on and trusting that the people that are my team trusting that they are doing things the way that I would do them or better. And that's a new challenge, right? But what have I learned? On the other side of every challenge is the benefit, is the growth, right? It's is the blessing, it's the reward. So, as hard as it's been to make changes, to trust other people, I know that everyone will win. It's better for them. It's better for the gym. It's better for me. It's better for my friends and family. It's better for my future. It's better for everyone. But it's hard. It's hard. It's a new challenge, right? Up until now, I've always been close. So I'm just sharing it. There's always, at every level, there's a challenge that you have to confront. And what I wanted to give you, again, just to remind you, at point number 4 here was just to give it time so that you make mistakes. And then the other point that I kind of missed that was tying into it, but also you have to build a reputation at a gym to be successful. And I've talked about this with Mikey too. Mikey was like, I think on episode 4, good buddy of mine. Grateful for him to have believed in this podcast from the beginning. But we talked about that, right? You have to be somewhere long enough to have a reputation, right? I can't tell you, and I don't want you to make this mistake unless you absolutely have to move from job to job or whatever you have to do. Unless you have to do that, this is what you don't want. And this has happened before, right? Even in my gym, I've had trainers in the past because my staff right now is pretty legit. But in the past, I've had trainers that worked with me for, let's say, 6 months and then they quit or I had to fire them, whatever. And then 2 months later, one of their old clients showed up or one of their old leads come in and they go, "Hey, I was in here looking for so and so." I was like, "Oh, they're not here anymore." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I really wanted to get back into training with them." And then I say, "Oh, I'm sorry, they're not here anymore. But you know what? So and so's here now. Why don't you try a training session with them?" And now the new trainer got the lead and got the client from the work that the previous trainer put in because the previous trainer didn't see the work through. And so now the blessing is on someone else, right? So you gotta see things through to completion is all I'm saying. So when you get that job, give it at least a year, and not just a year of hanging around being lazy, but give it a year of really trying to get everything out of the year, everything out of all the seasons, everything out of your coworkers with more experience, everything out of your manager and their experience, everything out of all the different people that you're going to train. Get everything out of it so that the day that you do need to move on, you walk out of there a more prepared coach to be able to either get a job at a better place, to get a promotion, to ask for a promotion, to ask for a raise, or like you said in the question, to start your own business. How are you going to start your own business if you haven't taken the time that you have right now to acquire as much knowledge, experience, information, and mentorship? Okay. Speaking of mentorship, number 5. Again, this is what separates the good from the bad, the greats from the average. You have to be coachable. Okay. I can't tell you how many trainers I know that I've met that have applied at my gym that I've sometimes hired over the years who left a lot on the table simply because they weren't willing to listen. Right. So here I am now, a gym owner, a business owner, someone, and I was trying to show them how to do it. They didn't want to listen. And so it doesn't happen, right? So be coachable. The best people, the most successful people are actually the people that are coachable, right? The people that seek good advice and can be wise enough to seek and hear and accept good counsel, right? You may have heard that, but when something is good for you, you need to be coachable. Also, this is one of my rules with coachability, right? You got to think about it like this. Let's say I'm coaching you, I'm mentoring you. The only reason I'm going to give up 20 minutes of my time is if I think that you have it in you to do this, right? So being coached by someone getting criticism by someone is not the negative thing that we have been led to believe, right? Oh, I don't do good with criticism. Oh, that person said something that hurt your feelings, right? We're misinterpreting what great benefit that is. The last thing that you want is for have I always use this example, you guys pay attention here because this is what a mentor or somebody that wants to give you advice is trying to do. You just sat on a piece of gum and nobody is telling you that you sat on gum. And you're about to go on a date. You're about to go on a date with the love of your life and you just sat on gum and nobody had the courage to point out to you that you need to change your pants before you leave. You know who did though? Your manager, your mentor, your friend, your real friend, right? That person that you feel like maybe pointed something out that hurt your feelings, they are the only one willing to do the uncomfortable thing. They know that they're bothering you. They know that it's embarrassing. They know that it's hurting your feelings when they call you out, but they're the only one that cares enough about you to do that for you, right? So be coachable. Allow for yourself to be coached to be better. Now, there's going to be another point here that we're going to tie into this one because you also can't listen to everybody, right? But a very simple rule is listen to people that are trying to make you better. So if they tell you, hey, I think this could be better this way, and also that they have done it, right? So if another trainer wants to give you advice, how long have they been a trainer? How successful are they? How many clients do they have? How much do their clients pay? What kind of results do the clients get? And based on that, you can decide, am I taking the advice or not? Right? Your manager, if they're giving you advice on how to get more leads, how to sell, how to, get a promotion, how to get a salary increase, they have done all those things. You should probably listen to them. Now, they may not be the best trainer, but there may be a trainer that can mentor you in training. So when I say be coachable, it doesn't mean listen to everybody because not everybody has good advice, but listen to people who have been there before and people who, as uncomfortable as it is, they're trying to make you better, right? None of us get to where we are by ourselves, right? I've said this before, but part of me sitting down and giving this time to you guys to share my experiences, to share my knowledge, right? This is my time. I'm never going to get this time back, and I'm doing it for free, sitting here to help you. Why? Because I'm grateful to everyone that has helped me, right? So I didn't get here on my own. I got advice. I got, you know, people that coached me that told me, stop doing this, don't do that, do more of this. This isn't going anywhere. What are you doing? Right? As uncomfortable as it was, I owe them helping me in that moment, right? I owe the person that gave me my first personal training job, I owe them because at that point, nobody else was giving me an opportunity, right? I mean, I just had a meeting with Sean last week, and he had to tell me like two things that he thought that I had not done well. And he was like, I got to tell you this. And he felt uncomfortable. And he told me, he's like, I think you did this and you shouldn't have done that at that time. And, I think we could have done this better, or you need to keep this up, right? You need to do more of this thing that you do and not let up. And so, he felt weird telling me, but again, because I'm coachable as well, just like he is, I remember I looked at him and I said, dude, there's nothing you can tell me that you have to feel like you hold back. Right. And I gave him like I opened the door and said, hey, dude, this is great. I'm glad you're telling me. Don't hold back on telling me. Why? Because I know how important it is for somebody to give it to you real, right? If I made the mistake that a lot of managers make and I wanted to say, oh, no, 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 you don't understand because, I'm the boss, then he's not going to be willing to tell me. And he was right, by the way, about the things that he pointed out that I had done that I could have done better. He was right. And so that again, I'm coachable. That's how I got to where I got, right? I didn't get here by not being coachable. I got here by being coachable. So I'm just saying, dude, when you start, be coachable. Stop acting like you have all the answers. It's one of the most annoying things to do. And it only hurts you, right? I've had it. Trainers that I'm that I have on my staff that I'm trying to coach, and they want to tell me why I'm wrong. They don't say it like that, but when you say, "Oh, but it's because blah 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 blah," you're telling me I'm wrong and you're right. And that may be true, but here's the thing. You're not hurting me by telling me that I'm wrong. You're only hurting you by not listening to my advice, right? So I'm going to walk away as your manager, as your mentor, and I'm going to do all the things that I know that work for success, right? I'm going to sell training. I'm going to build my business. I'm going to manage. I'm going to hire new people. I'm going to coach other people. The only person that got hurt by this exchange where you didn't listen is you, because you're the one that now has lost coaching, lost mentorship, lost opportunities, lost information that maybe could have helped you get more clients, get better results, right? Whatever information you just missed, you might look back 10 years later and go, fuck, I wish I would have learned that back when my manager first told me, right? And you don't want to do that. Man, time waits for no man. And so you have to respect time. So if somebody gives you their time to make you better, take the opportunity to be coachable, man. I just have to say that because just so many people, the reason why most people suffer, and here's another lesson, right? It's just not learning, not being coachable, right? Walking around like they're the smartest person in the room is, again, a recipe for failure. So, again, you got to be careful who you listen to, right? If somebody says, "Hey, go drink some mud water from the parking lot," I mean, you have to be wise enough to say, "Hey, you know what? F you, I'm not doing that." So you also have to have your principles and your morals and your wisdom. But what I'm talking about should make sense, right? Just people that are trying to help you grow in your career, you should take that advice and be flexible in that. And also seek it from a couple of different people. See what makes sense, see what doesn't make sense for you. Point number 6 that you really need to focus on when you have your first job is be successful where you are. Okay. So this is what I'm going to say, right? Again, let's say I'm your mentor. Let's say I'm, that person watching over your shoulder, however you want to call it. This is what I'm going to say to Sean that sent in the question and to anybody in the same position. Anybody really listening to this applies to everybody. So you want to open up your own personal training gym, you want to do your own personal training business, you want to be a manager, you want to get a raise, whatever it is that you're asking for that you want to, grow into. This is what I'm going to ask you. Are you even successful at the level that you're at right now? That's my question, and that's always going to be the question that you need to answer. If you're talking about opening up a gym or starting your own business or getting a management role or getting a promotion or getting a pay raise, and you haven't gotten past where you were 3 months ago, 5 months ago, here we go with the coachability, right? And it sucks to hear it, but you're not passing the test right now, right? If you have 5 clients, you can't be talking or asking for anything else. You can't be thinking about anything else other than getting more than that. Okay. If all of your clients are paying $20, you have a long way to go before you get to the next level, the next step, the next opportunity, right? So, my rule right now for you as you get your first job, as you start, is can you reach the top of the organization that you're in? And it starts by first having a full schedule, right? So when you show up to train, are you training the whole time that you're there, right? Do you have 7 people a day, right? Realistically, five to seven, 5 to 10 people. Have you gotten maxed out on how many people you train every day? Or are you showing up training one person and then talking a big game the rest of the day or complaining all day instead of getting to that goal of being busy? Once you get there, what kind of clientele do you have? Are you having the best, most consistent, most high paying clients that you can have? That's another way to ascend because normally, if you work at a gym, your pay is tied to the quality of the client, not just the amount of clients you have, but the quality of client, meaning, are those people paying, for example, $100 a session, right? Because if they are, then you're going to make, let's say, around 50, right? So you have to get to that point. But if you are working at a gym where you're giving away discounts, you're doing discounted sessions or whatever, and you're complaining about your opportunities, your pay increase, all I'm saying is you haven't passed the test. You have to be successful where you are. If you can, I'm going to give you a recipe for success right now. If you can get to the point where you are the busiest trainer with the best clients for the longest period of time, with the best sales record, with the most experience and best results with your clients, right? So you're stacking up results, consistency, high paying, experience, diversity in your training. You're in good graces with your team members, you're in good graces with your manager, right? Because these are all components that you have to figure out if you're going to ascend. Because if you can't get along with your training counterparts and you can't get mentored by your manager, odds are one day you're not going to be able to have a team. So all of these dreams that you think about, if you can't get along with people, if you can't get people to agree with you, you're going to struggle at some point. So again, if you want to be successful at anything, be successful at something. Once you have found the way in one thing, right? And this is a quote from, I think, the Book of Five Rings. I've read it, and I also have heard Joe Rogan mention this. He says he has a tattoo about it. But it is true. And it's one of those things that when I heard him mention, I was like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that is that once you find the way in one thing, you find the way in all things, right? So what that means is, and it's a similar thing that I'm trying to say here is if you have a job at a gym, reach the top. Everything that you'll learn in reaching the top of that task that you have, right? Like being, for example, as a new trainer, becoming the most successful trainer in your gym, all the things that it takes to do that are going to be challenges, but once you know that, you're going to be able to turn around and use it in other things, right? I'm surprised how many people don't use fitness as their barometer for success. If you were able to go from being out of shape and you changed your life and you're in great shape, then again, you found the way in one thing, which means you found the way in all things. So, what did it take to be in shape? Did it take a tremendous amount of effort, discipline, dedication? Did it take a long time? It took stamina, right? Or did it happen from one month to the next? Also, were there challenges? Were there mistakes that were made? Did you try to start many times and failed many times before you finally got it right? Right? Did you make mistakes? You injured your shoulder where you couldn't bench press for a few months. Think about the process that you've been through just to understand your health and your fitness and your body and your movements and your results. So if you've been able to pass that test and then become a trainer, then you found the way. So now do it at your job. Find the way, right? Become disciplined, give it time, have the stamina, make the mistakes, keep going until you have mastery of that job and you have reached the peak of the opportunities at that job. Then the next door opens, right? Once you're in line, once you're the best trainer, the most coachable trainer, the best coworker, somebody's going to give you an opportunity to either manage or you're going to feel confident enough to say, I think I can start my own personal training. And you'll be right. At that point, you'll have the tools that you need because you did the work, because you found the way, you found the path, you became as successful as you could right there where you were, right? You stopped looking to be successful somewhere else. Be successful where you're at. And all the lessons that you figure out, those are the lessons that you needed to learn, whether you learned them here or you learned them there or you learned them now or you learned them later. The lessons are the lessons. You're going to have to go through it. You might as well ascend and get to the top of your organization right now where you're at. And once you have done that and you've exhausted your growth potential there, only then can you ask for a raise, ask for a promotion, or decide to move on and start a new venture. But the beauty of it is you will be prepared at that point for what's next. All right. Number 7. This is where I was saying, right? You want to be coachable, but number 7, um, I just wrote down, I'm going to read to you guys what I wrote down as point number 7. Don't let people who gave up on their dreams give you advice. Okay. So now I'm telling you the opposite of coaching. All right. But that's life, right? The sign of a reasonable logical, wise person is your ability to hold seemingly opposing ideas, right? So, I won't get into it, but recently I see a lot of people that are one-sided in their opinions about a lot of things that are going on in the world. To me, I'm like, that's a sign of a weak thought because nothing is that easy to figure out. So, are you wise enough to hold opposing or similar opposing ideas, seemingly, I mean, opposing ideas in your mind? So this is one of them, right? You have to be very coachable. I said that already as my point number 5, but now number 7, you can't take advice just from everyone, especially someone that didn't achieve the things that you want to achieve. One of the hardest things to do when you are going to build a real career for yourself, when you're going to chase your dreams, or when you're going to start a business, however you want to look at it, the difficulty is that most of us, we're the first ones doing it, right? Most of you guys listening to this podcast, I'm going to guess that this is your first time trying this. And the reason why is because it's just how the world works, right? Like, if you had a mentor close to you, if one of your parents was a successful business person, they probably would have already taught you some of these lessons that I'm teaching you now. The reality is, most of us didn't have that. I know I didn't have that, right? I grew up in a great household with a lot of love, with a lot of care, with a lot of attention, just good people, right? My family are just what I say, good people. But when it comes to doing something new, when it comes to putting myself on the line, when it came to being a salesperson, when it came to figuring things out with marketing, with building a business, right? With being creative, with having a staff, with signing a lease for a location, with building a website. There's nobody around me that knew how to do those things. And so those people could not give me advice on the things that I needed, right? So even though, yes, I started with a big statement, say, hey, don't take advice on your dreams on people that gave up on theirs. Um, it really just means that anybody that has not been able to do what you're looking to do is probably not going to be able to help you in that arena. And one of the big mistakes that we make is that we confuse love for good advice, right? We confuse love for or caring for good advice, like I said. So sometimes the people that care about you the most are going to give you the worst advice in some areas. Why? Because they're not you and they don't understand what it's like to be you and they're trying to protect you, right? So when somebody's going to start a business, a lot of people close to them don't want them to do that. The reason why is that people want you to be secure, right? They don't want you to lose your money. They don't want you to lose your time. They don't want to see you fail. And so they're so afraid of the pain that may come that they might try to talk you out of it. But they're not trying to talk you out of it because they hate you, because they don't believe in you. They are afraid for you. Out of that love that they feel for you, they may give you advice that does not line up with who you are and the things that you want to achieve, right? And going back to my point, which said, don't let people who gave up on their dreams give you advice. Usually, you chasing your dream is going to hurt their feelings, right? So they might try to sabotage you sometimes. They may grow resentful of you sometimes, and that's a difficult road to travel, Um, hopefully you have people in your life like I have that cheer me on. They love seeing me grow. They love seeing me succeed and keep pushing forward. And they're there for me on the hard during the hard times, but they believe in me. But not everybody does. You may have people that you didn't realize how hurt you were going to make them when you decided to chase your dream, right? And that is a difficult thing to manage. Okay, this is something I don't talk about a lot, but it's true. It's hard when you hurt somebody's feelings because you achieved the thing you wanted to, and that person is not. They're giving up on it. And so you don't mean to do it, right? Let's say you want to become a trainer and your best friend wanted to be a singer, and you become a trainer and they give up on singing. The more successful you are as a trainer, the more you're going to remind them that they should have kept going. And so they may grow resentful of you doing that. They may want to give you advice to talk you out of it because, again, it's not that they don't want you to succeed. It's that every time they see you talk about it, it reminds them that they're not doing it. That's a very common thing in our, just our social relationships, right? In our human psychology. It happens, right? When somebody is doing the thing they want to do, some other people can't handle it. And so you have to be careful who you take advice from when you decide to go down this path. A lot of personal trainers have stories where people in their life don't want them to be trainers. They think it's not a real career. They think that it's not going to work out. They think that there's no money in it. They think that there's no real business in there. They think that it's not really something that requires a lot of education and experience and knowledge and expertise um, from the outside, right? They don't respect it. So, um, this is just a lesson for you to learn, especially when you can learn it at a young age. Look at people and judge whether they are truly like living a fulfilled life where they are happy about their family, they're happy about their physical fitness, they're happy about their income, they're happy about their faith, right? They're happy about their career, right? Those people that are happy and moving forward in those areas are going to have better advice than the people that have given up, that are resentful, that are not happy, right? People that somebody wanted to have a family, it never happened for them. Somebody that, got broken up with. I mean, you just have to, all I'm saying at point number 7 is you need to be better at judging where people's advice is coming from, right? Especially if you're going to build a career and you're going to build a business eventually. Um, you have to learn who to listen to and who not to listen to just as well, right? So, as much as right now, when you're starting, you need to be coachable because you're new, you need to. Eventually, you also have to be weary of people and what their intentions are, whether it's conscious or subconscious. Sometimes people say things because it's coming from a place, right? It might be offhanded um offhand comments that people make. So I know it's kind of a random point to end on, but like I said, just don't take advice from people who gave up on their dreams, right? Like, and don't take advice on your dreams based on people who gave up on theirs. It's just a random life lesson that I thought about as I was thinking about what you should be doing and thinking about in your career. um Everything is something that I think would have value as someone just starting off in this career. So, um, you know, get to work. That's how I'm going to summarize everything we went over today, right? Like the only way to do it is to do it. The only way to get through it is to go through it. So, um, I'll wrap it back up to my first point because I really want you to understand that all the time you took to get this degree was to open the doors to the new chapter and the new education that you're going to get moving forward, right? And all that education, it's all just to open the door to the next thing. And that's how this game works, right? So you haven't reached the top, you haven't even started. So get started, get to work, put your head down, get to work, and yeah, take, re-listen to today's episode, I guess, and get to it. All right. So I appreciate the question. I hope there was some value, some information, some nugget that you could take from this conversation here today, that can help you in your personal training career. As you guys already know, everyone that's already been listening and following the pod, you guys know I just keep it real, and I think that's why it's working. I'm not here to give you guys fluff. I'm not here to talk in any particular way. I heard a podcast the other day. I was like, why? That doesn't sound like talking. It sounds weird. So I'm just a guy who decided to become a trainer, who learned a lot of lessons, who made a lot of mistakes, who never gave up, who still hasn't given up. And I'm working at it. And you should too. It's work. But that's what I want people to take away from this podcast. Is like, dude, it's not about really like how you look or how you talk or whatever. It's about the work and the knowledge that you acquire and your ability to execute it. And at that point, it doesn't matter if you are white, black, Hispanic, Asian. It doesn't matter if you're man, female, or anything in between. It doesn't matter if you're 4 feet tall. It doesn't matter if you're 6'4", right? And I'm saying all of those things because I have friends and know people all of those categories, and in all of them, I see people that do great, and all of them, I also see people who fuck up because it's not any of that, right? I know women who are very successful. I know women that are not very successful. It ain't because they're a woman. It's because some of them have traits, qualities, information that they are doing, right? They have some beliefs that others don't, right? Same thing, right? I'm a Hispanic man. It doesn't mean anything. As long as the knowledge, the experience, the mistakes, the coachability, the wisdom, the books that I'm reading, the work that I'm doing, the mistakes that I'm making, the lessons that I'm learning, as long as those are in line with what I'm supposed to be doing, the rule is the rule. Whatever the vessel is what it is, right? And it's the same thing whether, like I said, you're 4 feet tall or you're 6'4", it doesn't matter. Those who follow the rules and think a certain way and behave a certain way, they get the rewards that are in line with those things, right? Everything I talked about today, these are just little rules and lessons that you can apply because they've worked for me and they've worked for other people. And the people that break these rules are not getting the reward. All right. Whatever all these people look like, where they're from, how they sound, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. So I just hope that you guys can kind of see that and feel that as we keep going here with the PT hustle. All right. So um, that's it. I don't know. I said this at the end of that last episode, but now I can update you guys a little bit more. I started doing a video format for this as well, right? That I didn't do for the first 100 episodes or more. But the YouTube is going to start from episode 100. I figured it's a nice round number. So episode 100 is the first episode on the YouTube feed. YouTube feed is just Personal Trainer Hustle, the Personal Trainer Hustle. It's new. So if you guys want to find it, I'm going to put it, I'm going to start linking it in the episodes. But if you put Personal Trainer Hustle Sam Lopez, you're going to find it, right? So you have to add my name to it right now since it's new. The first few episodes, yeah, it's video, but it's really just the logo because we didn't have a video format on episode 100 to like 110 or whatever. Um, but I still wanted to start it at 100 just so it's nice and clean. But there's going to be a few interviews there, so you're going to actually be able to see the trainers that we talked to in a few episodes. Um, and so now we'll have both. And like I said in the last episode, it's just because some people find it more convenient, not because there's anything extra special about the different version. It's just, I think it'll be easier for some people to find and share it. But again, our main crew here has been on podcast form, audio form. So shout out to everybody that's been listening from the beginning, that's been on the audio. I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to my craziness. But I I figure you guys are learning something, so you're still learning. For those of you guys listening to the pod, the YouTubes are a little bit delayed as of this episode, but they will be caught up, right? So the issue here is just I have to go back and upload all the old ones, and I want to do it in order. I don't want to have, episode 113 and then go back and upload episode 109 and it's going to be out of order. So, it takes a little while to upload all of these things. So I'm just putting them in order, but I'm doing like three at a time. And eventually, they'll be caught up and we'll be going audio and YouTube, practically at the same time. So once we get caught up, but for now, if you guys go to YouTube and look for 113, you can hear it, but you're not gonna be able to see it until later. And that's for everybody that listens live, right? I also have talked to some of you guys. I know you guys find the podcast and then go back to the beginning and start from the beginning, which was the intention the whole time. That's why they're numbered. That's why every lesson is a standalone lesson, because I want you guys, when you find the pod, to go back and listen to because every episode we're covering something that happens to us as personal trainers, some lesson, some experience. On some of them, I talk to other trainers. We learn from their training experience. So that is the format of the podcast. You go back, you go to the beginning. Anybody that found this on YouTube, episode 1 to 99 are only audio, and you would have to go and get them at a podcast app to listen to those. But I would say it's worth it if you have a podcast app. Go back and start from the beginning on the podcast version. But as of 110, we're going to be trying this YouTube thing. It's going to be weird because just the majority are always going to be on audio. But hey, whatever. It doesn't hurt to have another form of communication with you guys. So, Personal Trainer Hustle podcast. You guys stay tuned. Yeah, I got to add some stuff to the website, man. I've been so lazy. I put out podcast, and I never go back and like update the website. But I've been considering a few cool things. So when I do them, I'll put them up. But I always say this, my main thing is my gym, and that's what I spend my time with. The podcast is just a passion project, something I love doing with you guys. So sometimes that, is not always up to date, but the episodes are. So keep tuning in. I appreciate you guys tuning in to Personal Trainer Hustle here. And it's getting dark out, and I haven't worked out. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.